Joe Budden criticized Drake's new album and Drake went nuts. What up, words? Your boy Challz Brown back again talking facts. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit that notification bell. Head over to CLBMG. See what we got cooking. All right, man. You know how when there's two dudes in a room and they arguing and they both are making valid points. You're looking at one and you're waiting for the response and the response is valid and you realize both of these dudes is low-key making kind of like sense. But at the same time, it's a petty argument. I want to talk about the petty argument, the Drake and Joe Budden argument. And you know what I do here? What I do here is try to be fair and honest, but it also gets to a point where it's brutal. And sometimes the truth will hurt, but it's still the truth. And I know a lot of people have a lot to say about this album and this beef. I'm gonna read a little bit about what Joe Budden said and a little bit about what Drake's response was and why I feel both of them are even opening their mouths on this subject. But it's so much it's so much to discuss. I don't even have enough time to get into how ridiculous and how deep this beef goes, because Drake is a longtime fan. Drake is a fan of hip hop. I'm gonna start there. And I know most of you already heard and read what was said between these two. I don't know if I even need to read it. If I do read it, it'll have more impact, but I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to the reading of the. But Drake is a real hip hop head. Let me just be honest with you. You can tell that by the things that he reveres and the artists that he finds to be worthy of praise. He brought Wu-Tang out, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Drake? Drake that brought Wu-Tang? Drake that brought the Diplomats out? Drake that had the Pusha T microphone? This guy loves this music. He grew up in Canada, of all places, a big, giant, huge hip-hop fan. And you can tell how he raps. He wants to be taken as such. Now, with that being said, Joe Budden, what Drake said about Joe Budden, that he failed at rap. Drake said that because Drake himself was hurt. Let's be honest. Joe Budden, for lack of a better word, you could say he failed at rap to a degree. But what's failure? To me, I feel like Joe Budden's name is cemented forever to real hip-hop heads. Some people will put Joe Budden in their top 10 of all time. I'm sure it's a lot of people out there that's like, Budden is the top 10 of all time. Now, what's failure? Because there's a lot of people in most of our top, if you're a real true hip-hop head, most of your top 10, top 20, they're not going to be billionaires. So do you have to be a billionaire to be a success in hip-hop? I don't think that's the criteria. It has to be somehow become the criteria. But I don't think that's the criteria. And I'm going to be honest with you. Budden, I have had issues with Budden myself over the years. Budden is not the poster child for hip-hop purity by no stretch of the imagination, right? And I'm not here to defend Joe Budden. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm not here to be like, Joe Budden didn't fail. No. But what I am here to say is, and I got a lot to say about Budden, why he said these things to Drake. But Budden is a hater. Let's be honest. But when he wrote this thing on his Instagram, and it's spicy, it's extremely disrespectful, right? But you can only write these things when you are a fan of the person. Machine Gun Kelly could only write that diss, which, by the way, is probably one of the top Eminem disses in the history of people dissing Eminem. Let's just be honest. Nobody really got Eminem like that. Even Cannabis didn't really get Eminem like that, right? But MGK wrote that because he's a big fan of Eminem. That's why he was able to get at him about all of the things that he got at him about, because he was a huge fan. There is a history of artists that are fans that become, when they say your idols become rivals, right? This one, you got to understand, for Drake to respond to a failed rapper, something had to happen for him to respond to a failed rapper. You know how many rappers critique Drake on a regular basis? A lot. So why did he respond to Joe Budden? For one, he has a lot of respect for Joe Budden. He had a lot of respect for Joe Budden. If you go back and you'll see the interview on Joe Budden TV when Drake first actually met Joe Budden in the flesh, he was enamored with him and complimented him and telling him how great he was and how much he wanted to meet him. And, oh, you don't take compliments well, Joe, yada, yada, yada. But just take the compliment, Joe, da, da, da. He was a young person enamored with this artist. And that doesn't go away. Just like his problem with Pusha T. He still talks about the Pusha T thing because it still burns. Right? Because he bought the mic from Pusha T. Not from Pusha T, but however he got it, eBay, however he got it, right? Because he could. Didn't Drake just buy the Tupac car? He can buy anything he wants. But he had an affinity for real hip hop. And I'm going somewhere. Just stick with me, right? I'm going somewhere. It's all going to make sense at the end. Because it's going to actually wrap up. Where you're going to be like, I didn't think he was going there. But I just want you to follow me. He has an affinity for this real hip hop stuff. Right? He knows what it's about. Joe Budden, albeit he is a podcaster now. Budden is going to go down when it's all peeled back. If he don't somehow ruin his legacy, he will be one of the top 25 spitters of all time. It's just a fact. When they go back and do the history, his Slaughterhouse history, his mood music, da da da. Now, Drake referenced his mood music tapes in this response, saying that they were looking dusty. He gets 450 people to come out and listen to. He only gets 450 people to come out and in their Enis. That was funny. Their Enis suits, their hip hop garments, right? The old dude garments with the baggy pants, and they go. Budden, he's basically saying Joe Budden quit rapping because he could only amass a small crowd to come and listen to his mood music. Now that's a fan. Because if he wasn't a fan of Joe Budden, he wouldn't know nothing about mood music. Right? Now we're getting somewhere. You're telling Joe Budden he's a failure because only 450 people come out and listen to mood music. But he obviously goaded you out to come out and respond to his podcast. And he ain't the first one to respond to Joe Budden podcast. A lot of guys feel the need to respond. Because a lot of guys care of what they feel they look like in this hip hop space. And Joe Budden reaches more than hip hop heads, right? But let's be honest. If you're a Drake fan, it doesn't matter what Joe Budden says. It doesn't matter. So why would Drake care that Joe Budden says something about the album? I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to be upfront. I didn't listen to the album yet. I'm going to listen to it. I haven't heard the J. Cole verse. I haven't heard nothing. I haven't heard not one song. I'm asking people, what you think? Da, da, da. I got people that I already know what they're going to say, and they saying exactly what, da, da, da. And then certain people saying this, certain people say, I already know. It's down the party lines. It is what it is. So I'm not speaking from a place of someone who has heard the album. But I am speaking of a place from someone who is a pure stone cold hip hop fan since almost day one of hip hop. And I know when someone has been hurt with a jagged edge. This critique from Joe Budden hurt this man to the core. This dude wrote a paragraph. This thing is like 3 paragraphs long. And when you sum up the entire paragraph, you know what it says? Joe, I got more money than you. That's it. He said, I got a big jet. You fly private when it's convenient. Again, I'm going to be clear. Joe Budden Probably one of the most spiteful, hateful human beings. He self-destructs. He destroys everything he touches. I've been saying this for years, right? Is this a matter of time? Everything goes to crap. He pisses off. He's selfish and all of that. But I say that to say this. Joe Budden struck a nerve because Joe Budden was right. Now, what did Joe Budden say? Now, listen, I'm going to reiterate this because somebody's going to say, you a hater because you right? I don't agree with Joe Budden, but I agree with what he said. And what I'm trying to get to when I said Drake loves this music, don't nothing seem to get this man upset unless you talk about his music. Joe Budden wrote 4 diss records to Drake a few years ago, 3 or 4 in a row. Drake never responded to not one of them. He made one slick line and left it at that. He ain't come with all this because he wasn't talking about Drake's music. He was trying to get him to battle him and trying to diss him because he knew that only way he can get him his attention was to try to make him upset. None of the diss records worked. He didn't have an album out. He was at the top of the game. He was doing features here and there. He was doing this thing. He didn't care. He didn't need Joe Budden's approval. But let's fast forward, right, to what some consider a miss with the Honestly Nevermind, quote unquote, house record. That's considered mixed reviews. That's a blow to the ego. It was very mixed reviews to the point they had to start defending it. Oh, it's like you just was. It's a bees. We was on the islands with the girls. This is the mood that we was in. And some people loved it, and some people didn't. Right? But it's mixed reviews. Best songs came at the end. When guess who? 21 Savage got on there. Right? If you're a hip hopper, I'm just keeping it a buck. So guess what he did? He said, all right, I'll show you MFers. I'll do a whole album with 21. Biggest album of the year. Save this dude's whole, listen, if you don't think it turned around his street cred back to restored it where it was, you delusional. 21, can you do something? That thing went all over. Memes and everything. That thing turned the whole internet up. Biggest album of the year, right? Went through the stratosphere. Now we back. Now guess who back? The Muscle. The Muscle's back. Her big muscle Drake back, right? So then we get here. Everybody's waiting for this album. He push it back, da-da-da. They can't wait, yada-yada. So after all of that, you drop an album and you're scouring the internet to see what they're going to really say. What they really going to say. Ooh, what they going to say. What Charlemagne going to say. Right? Because you knocked it out the park with the 21. But now it's back to Drake. Drizzy Drake doing what he do. He has a certain formula. He does this for the ladies, that for the club, this for the people that want to hear, the kind of emo. He got a little something in the bag for everybody. Then he got something for the hip hop heads. And he's expecting you to understand that by now. Don't you get it? I don't do one thing. I do all these things. This is me. This is my bag. I don't do one thing. I'm not gonna come out with a whole rap album. I'm not gonna do like Doja Cat or Tyler and try to prove I can rap and do a whole album. Cause I know I can rap. I can rap. You know it. I know it. So I'm not doing a whole rap album. Comes with the album. Guess who is the loudest voice? The usual suspect is Joe Budden. And he's going to be loud, obnoxious, and mad, rude, and brutal. Because for one, he gets paid to be. But for two, he's very opinionated in an old school way. Remember how I used to scream on academics? Now, with that being said, he comes back and said, you're rapping for kids. You're rapping for kids. You're 36 years old. You're still sleeping with 25-year-old women. And your music sounds like you're rapping for 14-year-olds. It's basically what he said in a nutshell. I'm not even going to read it. Now, to be fair, the internet went and pulled up that Joe was 36 and he slept with a 25-year-old girl and got her pregnant. So they're like, you're a hypocrite, Joe. And he is a hypocrite. But what he said, like I told you in the beginning, two friends, they arguing and both of them they both make sense, right? But what he said is the reason you got that long ass paragraph from Drake. What he said was you're rapping for kids. Nothing else stung like this, bro. Because it's true. The simple fact of the matter, I just told you I didn't hear the album. But what he said is you're 36 years old. Your features are with kids and you are doing stuff for kids. And I want to hear the adult Drake, what he has to say. Now, I've been on the internet. I've been watching different videos, different bloggers and yada, 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 different YouTubers. And they're like, Drake can do what he wants because he's a billionaire. Drake makes so much money. The reason he does this is because he needs to conform to the kids. He need to get the kids to listen to it. That's who buy the records. That's who makes the streams go up. Da da da. But they never explaining, right? Why he shouldn't rap to his own age group. They got a million reasons why he should rap for the kids, and not one reason why he should rap to people his own age. Now, again, I haven't listened to the album. I'm just speaking on what I already know what Drake is going to be rapping about. I have no problem with everybody rapping about what they rapping about. I have no problem with it. Right? But I told you in the beginning, and this is the realest I can be to you. Truth is real. It hurts, bro. And when Jay-Z drop an album, the content going to be a little bit more mature. When Nas dropped these albums, the last 6 albums, the content was a little bit more mature. Right? These are the GOATs. These are the people we consider the GOATs. When you go lyrically, line for line, these guys, this is it. This is where the bar at. The set right here. Kendrick album. This guy was talking about therapy. This dude let out secrets. I'm still catching secrets to this day in that album. He cheated on his wife, his girl. He went to therapy. His family's trying to sue him for money. Like, it's so much on that album that's real. And that's what Joe Budden is trying to say. I'm just trying to be fair and balanced, bro. Budden is the supreme asshole. Let's be a buck. But what he said was that you need to start being a little more open. That's what grown-ups, when they rapping, they're a little more open with what's going on. It cannot be rapping for high schoolers and middle schoolers what they think is cool. And I know this going to sound a little bit like some old man shit, and I understand that. I get it, and I respect that. I'm not ever going to tell nobody, you should rap like this, da, 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 but I am going to keep it a buck with you, right? The simple fact of the matter is what his old ass was saying, and please don't get it twisted. I am not a Budden fan by no stretch. I've done business with Joe Budden in real life. Real life, right? With him and his managers more than once, right? But what I'm saying to you, two things can be true. Joe Budden can be a hater, but he could be telling the truth. And out of all what he said, when he said, I want to hear some grown Drake, I feel that because I want to hear it too. I've been saying it for a while. Like, how many songs can we make about these girls and falling in and out of whatever relationship? How many records of that? Now I get it. That's what sells, right? I understand that. I'm not telling nobody to change nothing, right? And he's not trying to be the lyrical top done data. And Budden, if he's being honest, he's like, he shouldn't be asking him to do that because he's not trying to be a rapper. But at the same time, you don't have to be a rapper to do more adult-orientated material. Because let's be real. We know when something is geared toward kids and when it's geared toward adults. And Kendrick album was not geared toward kids by no stretch of the imagination. And it still was one of the biggest records of last year. The numbers is crazy. He broke a lot of records with that record, and it damn sure wasn't geared to no teeny bop. So we all respect Drake for what he does. And again, Budden does not speak for everyone, but he did have a point when he said that. Imagine a more thoughtful Drake. Imagine a more, giving you much more jewels type of Drake about life. And yeah, he throws in stuff little da-da-da-da. But imagine if he gave you more game. See, I look at it like if you are a man of wealth and means and you're not telling nobody else how to get it, and I'm not talking about saying, oh, go get your money, young. No, I'm talking about buy this art, buy this building, buy this land, do this, that, and the third. That's grown man rap. That's OG stuff. Drake is at this age a OG. His music should reflect that. To the people that somehow equate you being a failure to how much money you've made and you can get a jet to being how good your music was is not resonating with people like me. I don't equate. I don't care how rich. If that's the case, all Antonio Brown's music should be popping because this dude had a big bag when he was playing football. So if we just every athlete that drops a record should be the biggest record. He should be the best rapper because he already got the money. So if we talking about the money, what are we talking about? I feel like, and many people feel like this as well, they just won't say it, that it's not about your money if the music ain't good. And I'm not saying that the music is good or bad. I just told you I didn't hear the album. But what Drake did with his comeback was equate Budden's lack of success, right, with his ability to form an opinion. He's like, you're giving your opinion. He's right. Joe Budden is giving an opinion. That's his life. That's what he does. He's here to stir the pot. And he's a jerk. I'm not gonna mince no words. He's a dickhead. But that long paragraph you got, I rarely hear Drake respond to anything or anyone. That long paragraph was the hip hop head Drake. The one that went and met Joe Budden when he was young and was telling Joe Budden he's the greatest. And Joe Budden crushed his world by telling him, you just put out an album that we can't even respect in hip hop. And you got 8 by J. Cole on your own album. Now, if I don't know if dudes understand what J. Cole's mission right now is, he's out to body every single rapper in the game. Anybody with a name. He talking about getting on NBA YoungBoy's album now. And anybody saying J. Cole is not bodying these verses, you literally have to put your hip hop cart in their trash can, set the trash can on fire, because we do not believe you. I think it was either Rory or one of these guys was like not feeling Cole verse on insert record. You know what I'm saying? Lil Durk and this and that. One of them guys, right? And it's like, he don't fit these, right? He does what he does. When you bring him in there, he does what he does. So if he don't fit the record you're bringing him to be on, don't get him on there. They blaming Cole for coming with Cole. He's doing a certain style right now. It is what it is, bro. So these guys that can't understand what Cole is doing, he's bodying records. He's out to just demoralize and humiliate and outshine you on your own shit. Drake should have known that coming in. And when I go listen to this record, I'm going to see what Drake was thinking. Because if Drake went on that record like they're saying and didn't do what he needed to do, then he's done right now. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you got Cole coming to the studio, you need to be bar ready. Because he's going to try to eat you. And that's what I believe really triggered Budden. That you got a Cole and Drake feature, and Drake didn't do what Drake's supposed to do. Drake could rap with anybody, but it's just, if steel sharpen steel, and if you ain't sharpening your steel, you're still gonna be dull when it's time to use it. Right? If you go 8-9 years and you don't sharpen your steel, and you just clashing with people that yes men, and they not really on your level, and da da da. So you're gonna start losing your he's coasting. You're gonna start coasting, right? Now the reason that he said what he said, because he really took a jab at hip hop itself. He said 450 guys looking dusty. That's a jab at hip hop heads, old heads. Your Enise, I used to say Enichi, but your Enise, what they rocking Enise outfits. That's saying they rocking old school stuff and they look like bums. He's pretty much saying all you guys that like Joe Budden type of stuff, that lyrical stuff, are washed up in bums. And that's not my crowd anyway. So you can have that, and that's a failure right there. But at the end of the day, you know that Drake respects that same crowd, because he's at the battles, right? He's doing this and that with all these underground dudes. Yeah, he plays with the commercial crowd, this and that, but that's to keep his bag. But he really looking down at this. He's looking down to see what's still going on, just like Eminem, still watching the underground. So with that being said, if you're looking at the underground, you know what it's supposed to sound like. And I would never tell a man what to do. Make your music however you want to make it. If it's whatever, you want to do German pop, like you want to do whatever you want to do that. But just rest assured, the real guys for real hip hop, we know that hurt when he said you're making rap for young people. That's why you got the long paragraph. Drake still wants to be hip hop. He wants to be respected in this hip hop lane. The only problem is you have to do hip hop. I'm just going to be 100% with you. Drake is big enough now that he can pretty much do anything he wants to do. But you want the hip hop respect. That's the only reason you would even respond to Joe Budden. Because you want the hip hop respect that he has. And when he disrespected you, he took it from you. Because there's a lot of hip hop heads that listen to that show. Go in the comments. Drake needs that. So listen, Drake could sell 1 million out the gate. It could be 40 million white kids streaming his stuff day and night and day. And I'm gonna leave it at this. They could stream that thing till Spotify crash. It could be the most streamed ever, and it's all little white kids that don't know nothing about hip hop. And not one of them kids' opinion would matter. Because he's looking for the opinion of the people that really matter, is the hip hop people. And that's why this stung. And Joe Budden is a hip hop person. And that's why he wrote that long ass paragraph on Instagram calling Joe a failure. He put his heart into that. He wrote that thing and checked it twice and put the dots and everything in there. You could feel the pain when you read it. But in closing, if I'm a billionaire hip hopper, I'm still a hip hopper. And it don't mean I can do anything I want if I'm looking for the respect from the hip hoppers. You understand? He don't care what the little teeny boppers are saying that he's making his music for. If you really understand what's happening, that's not who he cares about. Yeah, he wants fans. He wants to be able to support that jet. But that's why the music's coming out the way it is, because he got to support the jet. And that's what Budden was saying. As a grown person, I don't want to hear stuff that's made for little kids. Joe Budden drives me insane if I put any thought and time into Joe Budden. But at the end of the day, when it's about a hip hop opinion, not goofy stuff that be said. I'm talking about pure stripped down Jersey, New York, DC, East Coast hip hop opinion from the 90s. A lot of times we gonna see eye to eye. And that's just what it is. Except about him being able to be, he thinks he could body Method Man. That was a problem for me. But other than that, but let's just keep it a buck. We get so caught up in everything being record sales. It's to the point now that artists can do anything and say anything in the name of, I got record sales from that. So now what? The game is as goofy as it has ever been. And artists are doing the most ridiculous stuff to move the needle and put the streams in their pocket, right? I feel like once we understand, it's really about the music itself. And again, I haven't heard this album. So this album could be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have no idea. But I do know what Budden meant when he said you're rapping to kids. Because mostly anybody successful right now is going to be trying to appeal to younger people. Let's just be honest. So I'm going to leave it at this. Budden, he's giving his opinion. And it's not fair. It's really not fair to critique somebody's stuff that worked hard at what they're doing in their craft. It's not fair to do that. But it's done. And when you peel back the layers, what he's trying to say, again, I don't want you coming in my comments talking about, oh, Budden, but listen, I get who he is. But what he's trying to say is, grow up. And I'm going to leave it at that. CLBMG. Get in the comments, let me know what you think. I know we ran a little long on this one. And I really didn't even touch it how I was really supposed to, because there's so many layers to this, because Budden has an obsession with Drake. I didn't even get to that, where he's really just obsessed with this guy and he's going to talk down and he's going to talk nonsense about this guy no matter what he says and no matter what he does, because he's still jealous of this guy. And that's a whole nother issue that I ain't even getting to. CLBMG. Go over there, check out, see what we cooking. I'm going to catch y'all on that flip side. Peace.
CLB.